Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Blue Leadership with your host, Dennis Nayor. Dennis is a 25-year law enforcement veteran and retired chief from the state of New York. He's also a proud graduate of the 240th session of the FBI National Academy and the 61st session of the FBI Lead a Command Institute. The Blue Leadership video podcast is brought to you by the nationally ranked Master of Science in Law Enforcement and Public Safety Leadership Program at the University of San Diego. You can learn more about the LEPSL program at criminaljustice.sandiego.edu. And with that, I will kick things over to our host to introduce our featured guest. Thank you.
Kylie, thank you. Great to be back as always. And so our featured guest today is Lieutenant Darbie Ernst from the Carlsbad, California Police Department. Lieutenant Ernst has been with the department now in her 22nd year. She's held all ranks. She is completing her final couple of courses in the University of San Diego's Law Enforcement and Public Safety Leadership Master's Program. And she's going to share a lot today about just some of the things that she can attribute her success to, achieving a work-life balance, career satisfaction, and many other things. So, Lieutenant Ernst, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good morning.
Good morning. I guess my first question that I really want to ask, and I think a lot of the listeners and viewers are going to really get value out of this. And you were recently promoted to lieutenant, and you're from a quality department, and a quality department breeds quality candidates for any promotion. So do you feel that your academic studies in the LEPSL program is something that gave you a competitive edge over the others that were also vying for that same role?
Yeah, I definitely think it did. So when I first started testing, or when I tested, it was a couple years ago. With COVID, things kind of slowed down. So there wasn't a lot of promotions, not a lot of movement through the department. But so the list, we've been on it for a while. During that time, I decided to go back to school and get my master's degree at USD. And this program was very highly recommended by a lot of officers that are here at this department. I think we've had 15 go through the program so far, including several people that were on the lieutenant list with me. So I think I would have been at a huge disadvantage had I not put forth the effort and gone through the course. I almost wish that, I definitely wish that I had done this earlier and that I had this education prior to testing. I feel like the LEPSL program has opened just a huge new vocabulary, and the networking has been so amazing that you learn from so many different people through the course and all the different ranks. In California, our training comes from Peace Officer Standards and Training, so POST. And it's very structured in that you go to classes with just your rank. So supervisors go to, sergeants go to supervisor school, and then the lieutenants go to management school, and officers stay kind of with officers. Here you have chiefs and commanders talking to officers and sergeants. And it's every discussion is without judgment. And so you have so much more open dialogue amongst the ranks and across the country that I think it's just very beneficial to have, dialogue and vocabulary like that. And I think I would have done better on the test had I been through the LEPSL program prior to testing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's likewise, I completely agree. I always found that being in a program that exposes you to so many different perspectives, it just really expands your thinking and your knowledge base in a way that you could never have otherwise. And it's great to hear that transition for you for that competitive edge.
Right. And I think, when I started 21, almost 22 years ago, I was kind of the minority when I came in with my bachelor's degree. And I think now the bachelor's degree is the new high school diploma. So I think that if we're not, pursuing higher education, then some of us older generation types are going to be, passed up. And I think that, with a chief that has a JD and just passed the state bar, I think we would be at a disadvantage if we weren't pursuing higher education and bettering ourselves.
Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. And, I want to really ask you because, it's very difficult for someone who's successful in their career sometimes to also achieve a good work-life balance. And you have a husband who's a sergeant with the police department in which you work, and you have two children, age 10 and 11, and your academic studies and your new role as a lieutenant. Can you just talk a little bit about how you achieve that balance? And, obviously the LEPSL program there's a good amount of work involved, but it's all relevant and it's all worth it because we can relate it to our profession. But can you just explain how you manage to strike that correct balance?
Yeah, I think for all of us in law enforcement, it's always been a struggle to create work-life balances. And I think as leaders, it's a conversation that we should be having more often and trying to figure out how we're going to create more of a work-life balance for our newer generations. When I started, again, 22 years ago, we had a lot of stay-at-home spouses that helped out, the officers. Now we're dual income houses, and each career is just as important to the other person as the law enforcement career. And we can't take advantage of our spouses or our significant others. And so we really have to figure out how to create that balance. I think for me, I'm lucky because I do have a husband that works in law enforcement. So when we take our work home with us, it's okay, and we both have had similar experiences. We both have done a lot of, or we've both, been in a lot of positions within the department. We have a lot of the same experiences. We're a smaller department. We're about 132 sworn. So we're a bigger, smaller agency, and our paths cross, we go home, we don't live in a bubble. Our kids don't live in a bubble. We have conversations about our careers at home with the kids, appropriately. We don't delve into some of the crazy stuff, but we're open with our kids. It is very difficult, two officers at home, I'm sure as you have, or a lot of other people in the program, we have Thanksgiving on Sunday night instead of Thursday. Or our Christmases are a little discombobulated, or we're in uniform when we come home and open presents. So I think that has been the norm for a long time, but I think, like I said, as leaders, we need to start looking at how to create more of a work-life balance for the newer generations, the ones that do have the dual careers. We can't just keep saying, well, this is the way we've always done it, the shift work and that kind of stuff. I think we need to start looking at what can help people get through 30 years of this career. I think for us, we've worked it out. The LEPSL program, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But like you said, it's very relevant and very contemporary. So it's, we're doing a little bit of research, but everything's in the forefront. None of this, I've been so impressed with this course because it has really helped in my everyday career. So doing the work is actually interesting, and I want to actually read the assignments and listen to the presentations because everybody is just a wealth of knowledge, and it's not hard to find the time when you're actually interested in the academics that are, provided for you.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And, I used to say that I half the time thought that there was a camera following me around because every LEPSL course I took had some relevance to a situation I was dealing with, an internal matter, what have you. And like you said, although it's a bit of work, it was all worth it because you can apply it immediately. And for you, obviously to be at your level and rank, it requires a detail orientation and an ability to be organized and structured. How did you structure your coursework? Did you have a set time, or did you do it always like when you had the time available?
Yeah, so being a mom with kids that are interested in jujitsu and baseball and, all that kind of stuff, I was lucky that, I have a laptop that I got I was in the program where I received the iPad from the LEPSL program. So as long as you are able to be mobile and have your laptop with you and your iPad with you, you can do a lot of this stuff out of an office setting or out of your home. So, 2 hours baseball practice, I can sit in the car and do my discussions or watch the presentations. I didn't find it difficult to find time. Like I said, this course and this program has been so interesting and so contemporary that I don't find any problems making time for the course. Like I said, our chief is very, education forward. And so every once in a while, if you have some downtime at work, there's not a lot of downtime, especially with the new position. You can sneak in a couple discussions here or watch a presentation because it is so relevant. A lot of the professors are people that I've worked with in the past, from other agencies. And so listening to them is like, doing police work with partners that I've worked with in the past. So it's not difficult. It is a lot of work. I would say 20 hours a week, maybe a little less here and there, but you find the time.
Right. And that was mine. It was 20 hours. And at first it was, wow, how am I going to manage this? And I was a chief at the time, and it was a lot, but within really after 2 weeks, I was like, wow, this is just natural. And I look forward to the work and the discussion boards. And as much as I had a lot of other crazy things going on outside of the academic portion, I look forward to it because it was just something that had a lot of meaning, and it made the time go by quick. But
yeah, and I think as soon as you find out the way the professors want you to write, and they're very helpful with that. I haven't been in school since 1998. I think the whole house shared one computer or word processor back then. So it's just different. It's different for me to be in school. And part of the reason I went back was because of the homeschooling we were doing at home. And I'm watching my kids and I'm like, I can probably do this too, So I enrolled in the program, and here I am halfway or more than halfway through it. I think I have 3 courses left. It's been easy. It's been difficult, but easy. If that's if that's a thing.
It is. And one of the things that I think is important is I think a lot of people watching, or people who may get this podcast shared, they may be on the fence. And I'm going to talk about that more toward the end. But I think it's sometimes not a problem that someone waited a long time to go back to school, because this is the program. And I was in the same boat where I had my bachelor's degree for, I want to say 20 or 25 years. And I just couldn't find the right program. And I looked at MPA programs. I actually even started one, but I realized this isn't what I'm interested in. And then LEPSL came, and it was worth the wait. So I think for those listening, I think if they're in the same boat as you or me, where we waited a long time to go back, now's the time, because this is the relevant program for law enforcement professionals.
Oh, for sure. This is the program.
And so the program, leadership and public safety, that's really what we're talking about. And I wanted to ask you, what is it that you think maybe helped draw out some of your leadership skills that you were able to apply through the LEPSL program to those you supervise and lead?
Oh, it's funny because, we hear about empirical evidence throughout the course. I think every other discussion is bring some empirical evidence, stop being anecdotal. And I think for a lot of us, it's like, oh, that's the way we used to do it, or here, do it this way, but giving no example. If you bring empirical evidence to your squad or to your subordinates or the people that you're working with, and show them why you want them to write a certain way, or you want them to do things a certain way, because of your lived experience, I think it gives you more credibility. Just like, throwing empirical evidence into your papers gives your papers more credibility, your essays. In law enforcement and with leadership, if you have something that you can, so for example, we have, when I came back to patrol in March of 2021, I was supervising a shift of about 12 people, brand new, 10 had never even been to court before. And they had, hadn't been able to be proactive for a year. And so they lost the ability to talk to people and build rapport and go out and, find stuff and be in the community and have conversations, and not going to court. And so some of the reports started to, they just needed a little bit more in the reports. And we told them, you're going to end up in court, and it's not going to be good if you're going in with lackluster investigations. And so my sergeant partner actually had a motion hearing about a DUI, and he took one of our squad members to court with him. and the squad member watched him get, drilled in this motion hearing, but he did well. And the squad officer was able to come back and go, hey, they know what they're talking about. Court's rough, So I think if you can just bring some of that evidence to your squads and to your subordinates, you bring a little bit more credibility to your leadership.
Yeah, I think that it's always interesting to hear an anecdotal story, but it always lacks the foundation that you really need to push a message home. And I think when you can give that empirical evidence, which again, that was a word we used nonstop, I think it really supports what you're trying to explain and try to create.
Right.
What I wanted to ask you is, so it doesn't matter where anyone was policing in the year 2020 to currently, but specifically we started in 2020. We had a pandemic, a global pandemic. We had civil unrest, months of protracted civil unrest. We had spikes in violent crime. We had just, a reform movement for the entire profession. And it took its toll on so much because the profession was really broad brushed in a really negative light. And how did you keep your officers' morale positive to the best degree possible during that time? And to what degree do you attribute that to, again, the advanced studies in LEPSL?
Yeah. So when going through the entire year of 2020 with the civil unrest and the pandemic, I was actually in professional standards. So I didn't have any sworn subordinates. So if morale was bad, it was my fault, And so I did work command posts for the civil unrest and, things like that. But coming back to patrol in March 2021, like I said, it was definitely an eye opener. It was not the police work that I had been used to 5 years previous to when I was, in investigations and then professional standards. And I feel like people react when you model behavior that you want them to, you want them to perform a certain way. You have to model the behavior. And so you try and come in like it's the first day every day of this amazing career that we all embarked on for certain reasons. And we're all here, to make the community a better place, put the bad guys in jail. And we just need to keep moving forward with that passion. And the passion, I feel like, died for a little bit, and morale did get pretty low. But coming back, I think I came in with a little bit more, invigorated because I hadn't been in the field for so long, that I was just able to go out and be proactive and show people that it was okay to start having conversations with people again and, get back into the community. I think the LEPSL program helped because, like I said, we had conversations with people across the entire United States, and none of us were alone in this. And we were getting perspectives from chiefs, and they were getting perspectives from me as a sergeant when, I was going through the pandemic and the civil unrest. And so we were able to have conversations. Chiefs were able to talk to officers, and officers were saying, chiefs are doing it wrong, or vice versa, And so those open lines of communication and knowing that we weren't alone really helped. And we were able to give each other advice and, help each other out through the entire year. And, we're still going through a lot now. It's getting better, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that when you understand that the problem isn't specific to your locale or to your agency specifically, it softens it a little bit. And it also, again, those perspectives, again, from a chief's perspective, it's extremely important to hear from a sergeant or lieutenant or captain, because that's really where whatever the administrative policies and strategic plans are, that's where it either works or it doesn't. And vice versa. I like you said, it's great as a student in a program to hear from someone in a command level at the top ranks to understand maybe what they're trying to achieve. And again, I think this program is very unique in that it allows for that.
Right. I agree. And then, if you're talking to subordinates or command staff at your own agencies, there might be, some judgment. And so you kind of hold back. In the LEPSL program, there's no judgment. we're often told by the professors at the beginning of the courses, everybody should be on first name basis. We're not calling so-and-so chief or, commander or lieutenant, even though we all know our ranks. We forget it after the first introduction, and we all just become friends and, fellow students. And so the judgment level isn't there. And it's a very open communication.
Yeah, and really, it doesn't get thought of a lot, but that judgment is a huge barrier to evolving and to just accomplishing a mission. So I think knowing that isn't there, it's an asset in the biggest way.
Right.
What I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts? What would you like to say to those who are thinking about going back for a higher education or going back to school or considering what their course of study should be, and they're on the fence like we were at one point? What is it that you would say to try to help them make the decision to do it?
Well, I was one of those people who said I would never go back to school. I'm perfectly fine being, a sergeant. I'm retiring in so many years. I don't need the extra help. I honestly have no idea why I waited so long. This program has exceeded my expectations, and I've been nothing but impressed with the professors, with Dr. Fritzfold, with all of my, cohorts and in class, and all of the students. I honestly don't know what I was waiting for. My chief has been talking to me about it for years, and I finally came to him and said, "Hey, I'm gonna put in," and he's like, "What are you waiting for?" And now I honestly don't know what I was waiting for. This program is amazing. It's doable, it's contemporary, it's relevant. And if you're on the fence, jump over, get on board. There's nothing better than increasing your education, increasing your vocabulary, and there's, do it for yourself, do it for your family, and do it for your department.
Yeah, and it's and listen to, obviously you speak extremely well, and I think the LEPSL program also hones that, because you're constantly in conversation with people from across the country, so it makes a person think and polish their words and think critically. And I think it was also, you have a chief who has his Juris Doctorate, and so obviously that's someone who recognizes in their staff who's looking to excel, looking to accelerate their education. And I think for most people watching, they have administrations who respect higher education, and not only within the department, but within the municipality they work. So I think it does just kind of just raise the bar for them in terms of putting them a little bit more ahead of whoever their competition is. And I also think for, when the time comes that someone retires, they don't necessarily know what they want to do, but that master's degree, specifically from a program such as LEPSL, will really put them in a faster track toward whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah, you elevate yourself in the competition that you're in. Our peers are our peers here, but as soon as you leave here, you're going to be competing. If you want to do something else, you're going to be competing against a lot of other people with a great deal of education. So you might as well start while you're, still working. And some agencies have, or some cities have, tuition reimbursement. Take advantage of it. The city of Carlsbad offers tuition reimbursement, and here I am taking advantage of it. I think 80% of our officers have higher education. I think that was the last number I looked. So we're all taking advantage of it. And I look forward to walking this summer and graduating. And like I said, I've got a couple classes left to go. And it's been a great journey.
Yeah, and hopefully that people who are watching this are going to pull out their collective bargaining contracts and take a look and see what's in there, because there are probably people that don't realize that their agency pays for all or some or whatever it is, and that could be the tipping point that can make someone say, okay, you know what, how can they pass it up, because it's too valuable to not proceed with that master's.
Right. And even if they don't have that, benefit, look into financial aid or grants that are out there, military education. My husband got his bachelor and master's degree by using the GI Bill, and the tuition reimbursement. So there's other things out there if your organization doesn't offer it.
Yeah, and the nice thing was also that the LEPSL program partnered with the FBI National Academy. So if someone has the chance and they go to the National Academy and they take graduate courses while they're there, then they could transfer a certain amount of those graduate credits in, and then there's less time they'll be spending in the LEPSL program to get that master's degree because they've done the work already.
Right. So in the state of California, supervisors go to Sherman Block Leadership Institute, and I was able to not have to attend 2 courses throughout this entire program because of all the work I did in that 8-month program. So that is something, that your department sends you to, and this program recognizes it. So that was great. I mean, that's, a few $1,000s less that you have to spend if you already have those courses.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I just wanted, as we're closing down on time, and just wanted to just ask your final thoughts on just, as for those watching and listening and who may tune in and get this podcast shared, your final thoughts as a lieutenant and someone who is growth oriented, growth minded, and to work-life balance, to academic success, to just career satisfaction. What is it that you feel is important for those watching and listening to know?
Well, I think, in creating a work-life balance, our family should come first. And as leaders, we should allow our subordinates and our people's families to come first. And so, when we are making decisions and we're changing, the path for the future, we need to start looking at the family life balance, and we need to start changing the way we're doing things to help create that. We already have an issue with retention and recruitment, and if we can put forth the effort to make it easier for people to have a happy and healthy family life, then we're going to have an easier time retaining people. And so I would just put that out there that as leaders, we need to start looking at different measures to help create a better balance for people.
Yeah, no other time has it been so difficult to recruit and retain, and we're all competing for the same limited pool of applicants, and you want quality in who you bring on. So whatever it is that an agency and their leadership can do to make it more appealing, I think is a must.
Right. But yeah, so everybody stay safe out there. I appreciate you having me. And like I said, it's never too late to start the LEPSL program, and I wish I had done it a long time ago.
Awesome. Well, Lieutenant Ernst, thank you so much. Lieutenant Ernst, thank you so much. Kylie's going to come in and close us out, and really appreciate your thoughts, and wish you nothing but success in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you both so much for your time today. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to meet the law enforcement heroes and leaders who are part of the MS LEPSL family. If you'd like to watch previous episodes of Blue Leadership, you can find them on the video tab of our Facebook page or by searching USD Blue Leadership on YouTube. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time. Thanks.